Bonjour, voici la nouvelle Opel Astra bâtie par le groupe Stellantis. Reste-t-il quelque chose de GM dans les compacts populaires? Découvrons-le.
This is the 6th generation of the Astra, a compact model which replaced the Kadett 30 years ago. Within the Stellantis, the Astra shares its underpinnings with the former PSA compact models, especially the Peugeot 308. For the first time, the new Astra is electrified. This is a plug-in hybrid, and a full EV will join the range in 2023. The new model has similar dimensions to the previous generation. The difference in size is a few millimeters here and there. The new Astra can be had with adaptive LED headlights, which debuted on the Grandland X. The upper part of the grille is the so-called Opel Vizor, a modern take on a classic Opel design feature. For the first time, it was used on the new Mokka.
And also in the new Mokka, I recall having high sills, which make getting in and out rather difficult. Also in the Mokka, there was this pure panel cockpit design, a long slab of piano black with two displays in it. What is it with car makers and piano black? Car journalists rant about it, and car makers are like the honey badger.
Honey badger don't care.
Look at it. I got this car with less than 300 kilometers on the odometer, and it already looks like shit. Probably somebody wiped dust off with a paper towel, and here we go. A quick housekeeping note, I'm here to make car reviews for you and not to chase the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate you liking, subscribing and putting on notifications, but that doesn't always do the trick. This is why I have a newsletter which I encourage you to subscribe to. That way you'll get notifications about new videos straight into your inbox. No spam, just notifications about new videos. Link in the description below, and now let's get on with the review. The driver's display in the Astra is sort of like the one in the Citroën C4, although there are many more customization options here. You can also configure what's displayed on the head-up display. Opel is very proud of having a proper head-up display rather than the plastic bit sticking out. And that's something that's not available on the 308, because in the 308 there is this sort of raised instrument binnacle, and that's supposed to replace the HUD. The contents of the central display can also be customized, just like on the Peugeot 308 or the DS4 Crossback. However, if I were you, I'd just get my basic settings done and then move on to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and these are wireless.
The infotainment system seems to be designed by many teams which, for some reason, were unable to communicate with each other. And so, for example, the screen colors and the contents of the displays are in one place and the brightness is in a different place. I started looking how to turn on the HUD only because I saw the physical device. To activate the heads-up display, there is yet another menu which is completely unrelated to the other two. By the way, Android Auto Maps directions are displayed on the HUD.
I still have no clue if or where additional HUD settings are located, but I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't any. Just like, to the best of my knowledge, you cannot turn off the proximity locking and unlocking of the car. I encountered this issue, let's call it an issue rather than a problem, in the Peugeot 308. When I asked about it, Stellantis explicitly told me there is no way to disarm the system. Perhaps the French don't meet at voiture et café, and they don't get annoyed when their car opens and closes, opens and closes, opens and closes every time they pass by, because they don't pass by. Anyway, something that Opel deserves praise for are physical buttons for climate control, heated seats and heated steering wheel. This is good. For example, in Peugeot and DS, there is a physical button to go into the climate settings, and then you can change the temperature here, you can change the temperature with buttons over here, and the physical temperature knobs, I think, remained on the Citroën C4 if you are into knobs like me. Physical knobs for temperature. What were you thinking?
But even in the Astra, I feel some things could have been done better. For example, in the automatic climate control mode, there are 3 power settings, but you won't know until you get into the on-screen menu. 2 extra LEDs on the auto button would do the trick. Other switchgear is clearly PSA. The door pockets are deep and the cup holders are decent. Storage under the armrest is on the small side, but the glove box is pretty big for a compact car. At the bottom of the center console there is a place to store your glasses, and below it is a phone cubby with 2 USB ports. Don't let the rectangular frames fool you, these are USB-C, not USB-A. And like other PSA cars, you have to hold the start button for a couple of seconds for the car to register you actually want something done.
Ever since PSA took over Opel, the engine lineup is focused around the 1.2-litre PureTech 3-banger. There is also a 1.5-litre diesel, 4 cylinders, and a plug-in hybrid with a 1.6-litre petrol. Initially, Opel offers only the basic 180 horsepower PHEV. Later on, a 225 horsepower version will be available. However, based on my experience with the Peugeot 308 and DS4 Crossback, 225 horsepower PHEVs, I'd get the 180 horsepower variant and save me some money.
Opel claims the PHEV Astra will do 0 to 100 km per hour in 7.7 seconds, but based on my experience with other PSA siblings, I wouldn't get too attached to this number. In the Peugeot 308 I recorded a better result, and in the DS4 I didn't get close to what was promised. In sport mode, the Astra managed just below 8 seconds, and in hybrid mode, just above 8 seconds.
The top speed in electric mode is 135 km per hour, and this is where I have to talk about various modes, their limitations, and fuel economy. At the heart of the plug-in hybrid powertrain is an electric motor and a traction battery, larger than what you get in regular hybrids, but smaller than an EV, for example. So in PSA the battery has 12.4 kilowatt hours capacity, which is about half of what the original Nissan Leaf had and about a quarter of what PSA EVs currently have. Theoretically, the pure electric range should be up to 60 kilometers, but that doesn't mean the traction battery is fully discharged. Some remaining energy is used like in regular hybrids, say a Toyota Prius, where the electric motor helps or replaces the petrol engine when it's most beneficial for fuel economy. So, for example, when the car gets moving from the lights or when it rides with constant speed on short distances. Now, if the weather is right, you'll get about 50 kilometers around the city, no problem, but on colder days, especially in the winter, 40 kilometers on electricity may be hard to achieve.
As standard, the Astra PHEV gets a 3.7 kilowatt onboard charger, which means about 3.5 hours of charging from a powerful enough socket. With the optional 7.4 kilowatt charger, that's down to about 2 hours. From a regular home socket, you'll top up in 6 to 8 hours.
And what happens when the main source of energy is depleted? Well, then the car goes into a regular hybrid mode and uses about 3-4 liters of petrol per 100 kilometers. That's in the city, assuming you never charge from an electric socket. On longer journeys at 90 kilometers per hour, you can expect around 5 liters per 100 kilometers. At 120 kilometers per hour, around 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers. And at 130 kilometers per hour, around 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers.
Theoretically, you can use the petrol engine to recharge the traction battery or at least maintain its charge level. This mode is mainly for motorway driving when you want to conserve the electric energy for city use. Of course, in ideal scenario, you have an opportunity to recharge somewhere from an electric socket like at home and or at the office. Then the petrol engine may only come on sporadically to maintain temperature for the rare occasions when you need to accelerate hard.
And speaking of hard acceleration, forcing the car to switch from electric to hybrid does require some commitment. Remember that before you start overtaking in electric mode. I get the impression the Astra is more eager to accelerate when the big part of the traction battery is empty and then you're in normal hybrid mode. Then the reaction to the gas pedal is almost instantaneous regardless of the drive mode.
Energy can be recouped during braking. You can increase regeneration by switching to B mode. Observe the gauge on the instrument cluster for optimum regen. Just be careful because when braking switches from regen to friction, there may be a sudden jerk.
The Astra is pleasant enough to drive, the steering is relatively precise but not twitchy, and that's important. The suspension is stiff enough to keep the car level-ish through the corners but compliant enough to cope with some rougher roads. No unpleasant bumps and thumps from under the car. And the soundproofing is superb around the town and as well as on the motorway. In the press release, Opel calls this car Autobahn proof, and it really is, as long as you're in control. Because the driver aids, well, Opel calls this IntelliDrive 1.0, and it is a very early version indeed. Adaptive cruise control can start braking abruptly and then it doesn't want to resume acceleration even though you're already changing lane to overtake the slower car.
The lane keeping assist works quite late. Apparently it's supposed to keep me in the middle of my lane, but either it doesn't or there's some setting buried deep in the menus that I wasn't able to find because the people designing the infotainment didn't talk to each other. How else would you explain the icon showing the distance from the car in front disappear when you press the button to set the distance from the car in front? And why is the icon only on the heads-up display rather than in the instrument binnacle? Maybe I can set it to be displayed there as well, but I think certain information should always be visible in the same place.
It's as if the French engineer asked the German engineer whether they want configurable display modes for the driver's screen. Nine? Neuf? Pourquoi pas?
Visibility is okay as long as it doesn't rain, because when it rains, the driver wiper leaves about 5 centimeters of untouched space next to the A-pillar. On the plus side, there is a 360 camera to help you with parking maneuvers. The seats are comfortable. This test car gets lumbar support adjustment only on the driver's seat, but you can order the AGR certified seats for both driver and the front passenger. The driving position, I'm 175 centimeters tall, and even with the seat dropped all the way down, I still tend to brush my thighs against the steering wheel. I can raise the steering wheel, but then the top part feels a bit too high. My partner Anna is 160 centimeters tall, and she says she can't push the steering wheel far away enough. She can slide the seat backwards, but then she doesn't have a good feel of the pedals.
In the back, it's probably just as spacious as it was in the previous gen, but I don't feel the space. The legroom is okay thanks to the concave seat backs. Now, the headroom in the front is okay, but in the back it's barely sufficient, and I'm hitting my head on the handle here. The door pockets are too small, there's only one USB port, there are air vents, and an armrest with cup holders and a ski hatch, so that's a plus. However, plastics on top of the doors are still nasty and scratchy. Now, on the plus side, at least Opel fixed the door issue. In the previous gen, when you opened the door, there was like a pointy end about the height of a child's head or its eye. That wasn't brilliant, but they fixed it, so yay, Opel.
The old Astra hatchback had a 370-liter boot. The new one has 352 liters with PHEV or 422 liters with a conventional powertrain. In the estate, it's 516 and almost 600 liters respectively. The PHEV has some small storage under the floor, barely enough to store a charging cable. Although the plug-in hybrid doesn't have a double floor, judging by the floor shape, the parcel shelf will fit under the double floor in the normal engine variant. Prices of the new Opel Astra start at €27,900 for the elegance trim with 110 horsepower petrol engine and a manual gearbox. €1,100 more for the estate. The cheapest diesel costs €32,300 and the cheapest PHEV will set you back €39,100. This test car is a GS line PHEV. With options, it costs around €43,000.
When I asked you in my YouTube community tab about the Astra, the recurring question was, how does Opel fit in Stellantis next to the 308 and the C4? I think Opel is the sensible choice for those who don't want Peugeot's extravagant looks and Citroen's quirkiness. The Astra may not offer anything more than others, but after the infotainment disaster in the new Golf, I'd rather have the French Opel than a German VW. And how do you like the new Opel Astra? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.